We started a new book of Torah this morning. We entered into the third book, the book of Leviticus. And for many people, that is a drag. Just have to name it. It's true. The book of Genesis starts with the creation of the whole world, includes all of these stories of family intrigue and dysfunction. It's like watching great daytime TV. And then we get to Exodus with the epic stories of the leaving of Egypt, burning bush, 10 plagues, splitting sea. We get to the base of Mount Sinai, and in thunder and lightning, God delivers us the 10 Commandments. Serious high drama. They keep making movies about it. Nobody makes movies about Leviticus. We enter into what is called Torat Kohanim, the Torah of the priests, the set of books the set of laws, rather, that give the instructions for how the hereditary priests, the sons and grandsons of Aaron, are to carry out the sacrificial rituals in the Mishkan, in the portable desert sanctuary, and later in the temple in Jerusalem. I want to pause here and just dedicate this learning to the healing of Shulamit, bat Esther of Abba, for Sari. We come to this set of instructions for these sacrifices. Bring 2 goats for this, and if you don't have 2 goats, bring a pigeon and a turtle dove, and if you don't have a pigeon and a turtle dove, bring some flour and make sure to mix into it some oil and some salt. It really is difficult, and I remember, Clara, sitting with you when you did your first read-through of the Torah portion, and I remember the look on your face, which was, what am I supposed to do with this? If I had been born just a few months earlier, I could have been at Mount Sinai or the splitting of the sea, but here I am. What am I supposed to do with goats and pigeons and turtle doves and all of these seemingly very arcane rituals? I want to suggest that there is something in the book of Leviticus, in the whole book, which actually points to one of the most extraordinary features of what it is to be a Jew. In the context in which the book of Leviticus was written, the pagan peoples that surrounded us generally practiced mystery religions. They practiced various cults of devotion to Mesopotamian and Egyptian gods, later to Greek and Roman gods. And what these religions had in common was that most of the followers of those religions didn't get to know what the actual rituals their priests were doing were. They didn't get to enter into the sanctuaries. They didn't get to read the books. The religion was something preserved for just the elite, just the initiated, just the insiders. Now consider the book of Leviticus. Here is the set of laws and rules for how to do each and every one of our rituals. And who gets to read this book? Anybody. Anybody. We just heard them. It was entirely read by teenagers here. In fact, in the time of the Talmud, you would start students at the youngest grades on the book of Leviticus. They said, start the most pure with matters of purity. They would start little kids reading this book. Everybody has access to the book. Isn't that interesting? In most of the religions that surrounded us, you didn't get to know the secrets unless you were one of the elect. And in our tradition, no secrets. Everything put right out there for everyone and anyone to scrutinize, for everyone and anyone to interpret, for everyone and anyone to question. That democratization of access to God, that democratization of access to holiness, I think actually sets in motion the thing about Judaism that I personally find most extraordinary, which is that we all get to have ownership over this thing. We all get to read it and interpret it. We all get to question it and wrestle with it. Each and every one of us, everything, nothing off limits. The book of Leviticus, in that way, sets up the Talmud, sets up the later collection of rabbinic writings, spread out, written over hundreds of years, in the form of arguments and debates where we get to see how the religious sausage gets made. Right? We get to hear the debates and the discussions that go into the creation of all of the rituals that we do. We don't just get to learn about what the rituals are. We get to hear the rabbis arguing with one another about what they ought to be. We have a collection of books made up of about 5,000 religious arguments, of which, by the way, only 1% come to conclusion. There's nothing more Jewish than that. Right? About 50 of the 5,000, they say everybody agreed. The other ones left as an ongoing discussion. And in those discussions, we get to read the opinions that we wind up accepting, and we get to read the minority opinions. I just taught in our essential text class that some of us are doing together. I taught a set of texts about the heretic of the Talmud, Elisha ben Abuya, the rabbi who rejects everything. And you know what's fascinating about the rabbi that rejects everything? We know his name. Right? What happens to heretics? What happens to heretics in most religious cultures? They get burned, and if they're lucky, they just get banned. We take the opinions of the heretic, of the one who says, all of you, none of you know what you're talking about, and we put them in the book for everyone to read. That's radical. That's extraordinary. What the book of Leviticus sets up for us is a dynamic in which there are no secrets, in which there is no insider knowledge, in which every Jew has access to everything in Judaism and ultimately has access to God. And we carry that tradition forward from the book of Leviticus into the Talmud, into the debates and discussions which continue to animate Jewish life to this day. What do we mean when we say, Clara, that today you become a Jewish adult? What we mean is that if there ever was, now there is, nothing off limits to you in Judaism. You have access to the entire treasure chest. It's yours. We saw you take the Torah in your arms and declare Shema Yisrael. That means it's yours. It's yours to read, and it's yours to doubt. It's yours to question. It's yours to wrestle with. It's yours to transform for yourself and to potentially transform for the rest of us. And this doesn't just apply to you, Clara. This applies to all of us. We, as Jews, are given this extraordinary privilege of a tradition which invites us to be its co-creators, which invites us to be visionaries in every generation, which invites us to bring all of our questions to the table, and rather than see those questions as signs of disobedience or disrespect, to see those questions as an essential tool to carrying forward the story for a new generation. We read this book that doesn't have a whole lot to do with us today, because as you said, you don't need to bring a bull to shul. But we read this book, which has everything to do with us today, because it sets in motion a pattern of thought. It sets in motion a way of being. It sets in motion a definition of religion that continues to make this an extraordinary community to be a part of. It says there are no secrets. It says welcome every single one of you to be partners with God in bringing forth more Torah, more holiness, more love, and more peace into the world. The Jewish community is better for having you, Clara, as an official full adult member with us, better for having you as a co-creator and co-conspirator. And the Jewish community needs your voice, as it needs every one of ours, in bringing forward our story into a new generation, in opening up sacred possibilities and asking never before asked questions, in making this Jewish thing into something which can continue to live and grow forever and ever. Yasher koach to you. May you feel blessed in your accomplishment. Yasher koach to all of us as part of this village who gets to claim a small piece of the credit, a small share in you. Yasher koach to your parents who get to claim a very big share and grandparents and friends and family. And may we all go from strength to strength. Shabbat Shalom.